So, I'm gonna continue on with my topic of entertaining women, specifically me. But I want to talk a little bit more about what's bringing this up, I guess, because this has, because I've had several men, older and younger than me, that have literally expressed, they were honest enough to express their insecurity or their concern with being able to keep a woman such as myself. And because this has come up so many times, a few times now, like I would say several times over the past year for sure, it's come up again and again. And I welcome these type of open, honest conversations. I think it's healthy. I think it's good to do that. But, I want to make sure that I really express to anybody out there, any guys, anybody out there, especially men, that I know it's easier said than done to have confidence. And I find that a lot of men will have a lot of confidence in, let's say, work or whatever it is they're good at work, secular things or whatever, they can make money, like whatever. And when it comes to the opposite sex or women or relationships, they're kind of like a question mark, or they have a lot of anxiety, right? And because I have noticed that a lot of men, this anxiety comes from having a previous relationship that bombed. And they feel basically a sense of like a failure. And I think men, maybe, I don't know if everybody is this way, but I feel like men actually really, really seem to they get cut more deeply than maybe what we realize. They take things to heart so deeply that they're almost scared to make a move after this bad experience, right? And it's like, and I'm not saying women, anybody can be this way, right? But it's like, how do you know basically when your lack of confidence is really the only thing that's holding you back from maybe getting what you want or being with that woman that you want or whatever? How do you know? Okay? And basically, maybe you have had a lot of bad experiences. Maybe you have had woman after woman after woman who have used you. And maybe you do have a reason for concern or a reason to pause. And those are valid reasons. I've had situations and things when I felt I was definitely used emotionally, mentally, psychologically, whatever. Or my niceness was taken, and my kindness and niceness was taken for granted and things like that. But the difference is assuming that the next person is going to do the same thing. If you can't be open enough to know, or open enough to allow the next person an opportunity or a chance to just let them be what they're going to be, right? Because when you get to a certain age, you definitely know that it's not your job to change anybody, okay? It's like, we can't change, I can't change you, you can't change me. Like people change when they want to change, and they change for whoever they want to change for, okay? But to try to make somebody change from the rip to adjust and love you the way, that's just like, that's a losing battle, right? So you need to allow people to just be who they're going to be. Let them show up how they're going to show up. If they show up untrustworthy, and they show up a liar, a user, stealing your money, or just a cheater, abusive, narcissistic, like if that's how they show up or whatever, right? Then you need to allow people to own their problems, to own who they are. In other words, it is not my fault if you decide to be a liar, a user, a manipulator, or whatever. It is not, if you want to be a cheapskate or if you want to be, that type of a person or whatever, that's not my fault. That's you. Okay, you are responsible for you, right? And I'm not going to own that. I'm not going to take responsibility for that. And I'm not going to even take the blame or the fault for that. I mean, some relationships, like your ex will try to blame you for everything. That may come out of their mouth. But again, that doesn't mean that I have to accept that. And that doesn't mean that it has to be actually the truth or my truth or my reality. Okay? And if they want to blame you for things or whatever, your ex or whatever, stuff like that, you don't have to internalize that. You don't have to accept that. You can literally allow people to just view you the way that they want to view you, or see the world however they want to see the world, or let them live in their cesspool of a mindset over there. And don't try to change them, and don't try to prove them right or wrong. Let it just be. And understand that in that person's world, you might be the devil, or you might be the she-devil, or you might be this or that to that person. It doesn't mean that you actually have to accept that as a reality or even internalize that. When you see patterns, if you start seeing a pattern of people who hate you, then there might be a problem, right? But when I'm talking about like not taking your baggage from the last relationship, first of all, if you go from relationship to relationship to relationship too fast, without giving yourself some time in between to reflect and to meditate, to pray, to heal, or to evaluate your feelings and isolate those feelings and then like leave them over there with that person, right? And that process is different for everybody. Some people need, a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year. And some people don't. It just really depends on how bad the damage was, how deep, how hard, or whatever, right? But you'll know because your heart will start to open. And when you're able to look at the next person as brand new and allowing them to be an experience all unto themselves. Okay, it's like, when I said last night, I said, like for me, men are, and I don't say the men are pets, like they're not good for, they're good for a lot of things. But for me, it's like, I'm going to love, like if you have a new pet, right? You have a new friend or you're like, I'm going to love this and hug and squeeze and just, buy this pet little things or whatever and feed him and just, be happy, like you got, or if let's say the last pet though was always biting you and irritating your soul. And, this, maybe you had a bad pet who was always eating up all your stuff and destroying your house. And you got rid of that pet. And now every time you see a dog or whatever go by, you're like, dogs. All dogs are, horrible. They're hard to deal with or whatever. They don't offer any good balance. They don't offer any, then you're not healed. You're not ready to get another pet, right? You're not ready to move on to the next relationship, to a new pet. So when you can look at a pet, when you look at a person, when you can look at the next whatever, and not feel traumatized and not feel like this next person is a walking, talking, breathing she-devil, he-devil, narcissist, or whatever that you experienced in the last one, right? Then you kind of know, okay, you actually you're healed enough to allow a new open experience, to allow that person to be who they're going to be. Okay? And when they show themselves to be whatever they are, you accept it for who they are. Okay, and if you're loving and if you're forgiving and if your love comes from God, right, on a continuous basis, then if that person decides to not do you right, to not treat you right, you go set them on a shelf and you analyze, take your time to deal with that, whatever that was, and say, how can I avoid that again? Well, that person, that ex or whatever, they came with a lot of baggage. They had a baby mama drama, or they had a child that was under 3. And so being that there was a lot of confusion as to where their time was going to be spent, or, just reflecting like, well, this person was maybe immature, or they didn't have a job, or they didn't want a job, or, this person, whatever, XYZ, like, in other words, identify what it was that A, attracted you to that person, and B, where the issue was. Was it the issue that he was irresponsible, or was the issue that he was too young or too mature or too set in his ways, too old, didn't want to change, doesn't want to see life, has a negative outlook on life, didn't believe in God, doesn't have any morals. This person didn't have any moral standards. This person is, doing bad things, doing, secret things, or doing illegal things. Did that person have the kind of job that I can't get down with? Like, is he trafficking women? Like, that's bad. Okay, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, you need to identify what it was with that person, whatever, that didn't work, and then you upgrade to the next one. You make a change for the next one, right? But if you're constantly looking at, if you don't do that, if you don't take time to do that, and you don't take time to reflect and see what you need to, maybe if you need to fix something on yourself, or if you're always attracting, let's say, controlling men or cheaters or whatever, like if you realize, like, you know what, wow, I have like issues in my family, or my mother was this way, all the people on my family, yada, yada, yada. Like, I need to fix some things and how I view some things, and, because this is deeply rooted in my family, or I'm going to keep attracting the same thing, right? Sometimes it's going to be more deep, and that could take more time. And sometimes it's just a matter of like, yeah, let me choose better. Let me just not fall for a player. Let me just, not fall for these, basketball men or whatever. Not the basketball men. I'm just saying. Like, in other words, flaky. Maybe if you are a materialistic kind of person, if you are materialistic, right, and you care about money, cars, and nightlife, going out, popping bottles, drinking, smoking, getting high, whatever, and that's your lifestyle, whatever, and you're going to attract that. Okay, and you're going to attract someone who has that type of a moral standards. And then and that person cheats on you, you might wonder why, or get hurt. Well, you got to think about the lifestyle that or how you attracted that person in the first place. If you don't want a woman who is materialistic, who's going to only be out to get your money, then don't be that yourself. You can't let money be your number one priority, or houses or cars. Don't try to attract a woman with your fancy car and then expect her to not be materialistic. It doesn't work. If you attracted her from your material things, she's going to be probably a materialistic person. And if you want someone who is a tree hugger, or someone who is more real, or someone who maybe is more into calmer experiences, somebody who is more giving or caring, or somebody who wants to help others, or someone who's more into donating their time, or helping the elderly, or whatever it is that your mission is or whatnot, then you have to find somebody who is actually already doing that as well, or that is their outlook on life as well. You understand? It's like if you're always having these experiences with women who are using you for your money, then you probably attracted them in that type of way. Okay? And if you want something different, you'll have to attract differently in that way. So you'll need to look at yourself and how did that happen. So if you drive around in a fancy car, an expensive car, and you're always attracting these type of women or whatever, right? You might need to go ahead and get yourself a less expensive car, a brown bomber, like I say, like a putt-putt. And when a woman is like okay with what you're driving, if you're driving a beat-up car, whatever, and she's okay, and she doesn't frown on you, and she doesn't like judge you for that, then you know you got probably a different chick. Then you know you got somebody better. Then you know you got somebody different. Okay, then you know, like, she's not trying to use you for your money or whatever, right? It's like, this is a lot of things that I hear of. These are a lot of things that I hear about. Okay, I've heard of. But you have to take time to heal so that you don't, so when you have a good one in front of you, when you have a real one in front of you, when a real love presents himself in front of you, when God decides to answer your prayers, and he sends that woman in your path, and you see her, you can recognize her, okay, and not dismiss her or think that she's not who she's presenting herself to be. Okay, and you're ready, so that you're actually ready to accept this person and this new experience that this person will bring in your life. The new funness, whoever they are, whatever they are, like me, I have all kinds of weird things about myself, right? Like I definitely, like I said, I'm a picker. I'm an esthetician. I like to pick things. I can go hours doing that, like hours and hours. And I'm a groomer. I'm the old glamour shots girl. I'm used to being on set, patting people's face down and catching their sweat or, the oil on their face, or just making sure that they're good. Like, that's part of who I am. Some men love that. Some men hate that. Some men like that. They find it to be nurturing. Some men hate that. In relationships, I'm very much I'm very simple. I don't need to be entertained. I like to lay up. When I'm in a relationship, to me, quality time is laying up, letting the rain hit the roof and not have anything to do, listening to the rain. Like, simple things for me is like, if I like that person, I want to be around that person. I don't need him dancing and, doing whatever. Like, it's just more or less like you like to spend time together. You can take a nap together. You can be calm. You can be calm together. Okay, I don't need to be spending money. That's not my thing. All right, and for me, a guy can have fancy cars, a big old house, and a big old wallet, a big bank account, and all that stuff. But if he gets in his car and he runs over an elderly person, or he runs down practically an elderly person at Walmart, or he sees an elderly person or a disabled person who is having a hard time putting the stuff in her car at the store, and he drives on by like it's nothing, and he doesn't even see an opportunity to help that person. He has the health, the strength, the ability to do that, and he just drives on by like whatever, and you're not looking out and thinking and looking out for your neighbor. To me, that's a lack of character. That's what I actually look at. Then I don't really respect that kind of a person. It's like, okay, great, you're a good business person, or great, you can make good money. Okay, that's great. And right now in this fleshly world, you could be a winner. But in the spiritual world and in God's world, and like in the grand scheme of things, are you really a good person if you don't look out for your neighbor? If you always try to run people out of their parking spot, or beat them, or running through red lights and you hit somebody. You understand? Like, accidents happen. Accidents absolutely happen. But there's principles to life. There's principles, and there's things that are more important, right? And so to me, I don't want to be with someone. Like, to me, that's okay. You could have money, but that doesn't mean you're a good person. Having money does not mean that you're not a liar. You lack character. Do you have good, strong character? And if you don't, are you working on that? Or why don't you? Did your family have good character? Did your mother have good character? Did you witness your father, your mother scheming and crime and or lying or cheating or stealing, or doing things for money, doing strange things for money? What do they say? Strange for change or whatever. Like it depends on how you were raised. And then sometimes you have to isolate that. You have to isolate that, where it came from, and figure out, like, okay, I don't want to be like that. My dad abused my mother, but I'm not going to be an abusive person. My dad was abusive verbally, mentally, emotionally, physically, and I decided I'm not going to be like that. I won't be that way, right? I'm going to be a better man than my father in that way, or whatever, right? Okay, and so in other words, not bringing emotional abuse and baggage and things from your past into the new, to trauma dump on the person in front of you, or maybe not that deep, but to not accept love when love is presenting itself. Like, I don't know if you're real. I'm not gonna fall in love with you. I'm only gonna throw you a bone. I'm gonna let you hug me, but I'm not gonna fall in love with you. Or how about that man that you might have been dating for a year, and you have spent so much time with this person, and this person clearly is attached to you, and he can't bring himself to honestly open up his mouth and say, I love you. Because he's scared, nervous, and he's traumatized from the last person. Like, the minute he says, I love you, he thinks he's allowing the floodgate to open up, and that means he's going to give you some sort of permission to abuse him or hurt him or take advantage of him. That means that you have issues from your past. Because if you love that person, and they've given you enough reason to love them, then you should be open enough to trust that person. But where this disconnect happens sometimes is not understanding that you're holding back, or you're not living your best life, or you're withholding love, or not giving love, or even stopping yourself from receiving the love, or seeing the person in front of you as who they truly are, because of your past, because of you being scared, because you didn't deal with it, you didn't take the time to deal with it, and the issues and whatever went down, you didn't take your time, okay, and to give all those knives that they stabbed you in the back, all those knives and all that trauma and all that issues and everything, give it right back to them. You pulled out your bowl of spaghetti, that you dumped out your bowl of spaghetti, you pulled out each strand, and you said, nope, you're responsible for this. You are responsible for this. Nope, you are responsible for this. I wasn't responsible for this. Okay, I wasn't responsible for this. I shouldn't have, been called this name, that name, or I didn't do this, or I was responsible. In other words, you give back the person all of their trauma, their names, their name calling, their narcissism, their whatever they did that was wrong. They stole, they did that. You know what? They were wrong for that. Okay, and they have to own that. They've shown who they are. They could change. It's not that a person can't change, but you now have the right to say, this is who you have proved to be in my life, and you no longer get the right to be in my life. It doesn't mean that I don't forgive you. It doesn't mean that you're not changed, and you might be a different person now because of the way I'm treating you and the way that I've separated you from my life. I'm pushing you out of my life. That may make you now change some things about yourself so you show up better to the next person, right? But you yourself, you don't have to accept that treatment, that behavior, or be responsible for what happened, okay? You can literally say, that was you. It wasn't me. You chose to show up that way, okay? And as you go through your shadow work and realize, like, yo, my mother was like this, and this is why I'm attracted to this type of woman. My mother was like this, my dad was like this, or whatever. And I realized that this makes me prone to being attracted to a certain type of XYZ. And, I realized I have to change some things because it's not working for me. This isn't working. And that's called shadow work. You take your time, you do that, or whatever, you heal, and then you become open for the experience to the next person. Your heart becomes open. And then you can see a person for who they are. You don't try to change them. You just allow the person to be who they are. It's like for me, who I am, like I'm a respectful person. I honor my elders. Okay, but I don't need to prove to anybody my worth to anybody's mother, right? I've been there, done that in my life. If you are lucky enough, fortunate enough to still have your mother alive and everything, and I'm going to love them for who they are, respect them for the place that they have in your life, and be good to that person or whatever, right? But I am not going to bend myself backwards and jump through hoops to try to make somebody's mother or father, whatever, love me. Not as an adult woman. I've already been there, done that as a youth, a younger person, okay, in a relationship. I know my value, I know my worth, I know what I bring to the table, right? As far as who I am, my character. I know that if somebody puts me in their household for some reason, anything, watching their kids, helping out, whatever, I'm a friend, whatever, like with my girlfriend, I'm there, whatever, she has the little kids or whatever, I know what I'm going to do. Like, I know that if, who I am, like, I like to organize things, okay? Some people, you let them in your house, and what do? They steal. They have a drug problem. They have issues, right? They have habits that they're trying to feed. I am not that way. I understand there are people like that. I am not one of them. I don't have habits I'm trying to feed, right? When I'm around somebody, my goal is to bring love to them, bring good energy, and if they, let's say they need help in their kitchen is unorganized, I'm going to organize the kitchen, if I'm there, right? And I have the ability to do that. Like, when I'm with the kids, I go with the flow. Like, if I have children, I have kids in front of me, then it's about the kids. Like, okay, it's quality time with the kids. We have whatever age they are. They like to color, we're going to color. They want to go to the park, we're going to go to the park. They want to play games, we're going to play games. They need to be fed. They need to be bathed. They need to be honest. Like this is my experience in life. I can do, like, that's what I'm going to go with the flow with that. If I am at a job or I'm working, when I like sales, I'm good at sales. I want to do sales, right? And I can do that. So when I'm in work mode or whatever, I go with the flow with that, and I'm in work mode. And I am good with that. Like, that's who I am. Right? And so it's like, if a person allows me to be who I am, you're going to see who I am. If I'm not entertained for some reason, you're going to know. And it's more or less not entertained. I mean, I don't need entertainment because my mother used to say I come with my own agenda. I was born with my own agenda. Like, yes, I always have a list of things to do. I always have stuff to do. I got things I got to get done, whatever. I always have goals. But I enjoy quiet time and downtime if I'm with somebody, if I have a mate, then it's like, I like being calm and just doing nothing. That to me is entertainment. Because I already have a lot to do on my own. I already keep a busy type of either schedule or just, goals. I already have stuff to do, right? But if I am with somebody, I am purposely giving myself opportunity, or I'm opening up my schedule to allow that person to be in my life because that's who's in front of me at the time. And I'm assigning value to that person. I'm assigning honor to that person already. And I'm not going to take for granted the opportunity I may have with this person in front of me. Because I know it could be, whether it's a child, a family, a friend, or even a boyfriend, a potential boyfriend, somebody I like, or whatever. I know, and I have experienced the reality that this could be the last time that I interact with this person. Life is not guaranteed tomorrow. So if you do in fact love that person, you should tell them. Or if you care about that person, then yes, I go with the flow and I give them that time, and I am on purpose in that moment with them because tomorrow's not guaranteed. And there's no way for me to come from any other angle because of my real life experience. And if I really don't like that person, or I'm not entertained because of them doing bad things, like maybe I'm not entertained because they're out there selling illegal drugs. I don't want to be entertained by a person like that because I don't want to be in the car with you because I don't want to go to jail. So yes, I'm not entertained. That doesn't entertain me. Okay, I don't want to do that. That's not an activity I want to do. Do I think you're a bad, evil person? No. I just don't fly like that. I never did, even when I was young. Okay, like I don't want to be around that kind of like ridiculousness. I don't want that. Okay, like what I'm not entertained with is like toxic stuff, toxic treatment, bad treatment, stuff like that. Like, forget entertainment. Like, I don't know. Like, that's just like, I don't want to be around that. Okay, but if you're not doing that, like, if you're not doing that, then I don't know. I am, like, for myself personally, I don't mean to bring up anybody's insecurities. Like that is like the farthest thing that I would ever want to do to any man. Especially to men who I feel are really good men, who are very, very valuable. Their expertise in their own right to whatever it is that they do. Like some of these men are just, they're of high caliber. They're respectful men, and I respect them and I value them as a person. Like, if I decide to keep you in my life as a friend, even, like, maybe not even as a partner or as a love partner for whatever reason, okay, but if I'm like, yeah, but I value you as a person, as a man or whatever. Like, I have a friend right now that when I moved, first thing I did was give him my address. Because I value him. He's a responsible person. To me, he's like an emergency contact person for me. And I have a few people like that outside of my family, like my mother, but she's out of state or whatever. Like, but I have a few friends like that, okay, who I would trust to, they could track me, they could do whatever. Like, I trust them. Okay, that's me assigning that person value. Like, you're valuable to me. Like, I trust you. I can see what you're about. You've shown me a lot of who you are, and I trust that. I don't, my goal for me, like, if I have to heal from somebody or whatever, like, then I do that. I don't run from healing. I don't run from taking time to evaluate past situations and things so that I can come to the next situation a more healed person, a more whole person. Okay, like, you know, and so, yeah. Yeah, I gotta get my lipstick on. Y'all know how I do. I like to do my makeup in the car because it's really good light. As a makeup artist, I love doing my makeup in the car. It's the best. Anyway, yeah, like, because I was raised by not necessarily tree huggers, but my mom would say she was a tree hugger. She would say, but I was raised, you know, by solid individuals who love God. We appreciate real things, and I'm a beautifier. This is what I do for a living. I do makeup. I beautify things. But I would say I'm more classic, and I'm more classy, meaning I bring the class. I don't need fancy cars. I don't need fancy outfits. I don't need, because I know my character, how I carry myself and who I am is what's classy. That's what's classy. And if a person can't appreciate me for who I am without being dripped in diamonds and name brand this, that, and the other, Gucci, you know, and all this stuff, right? Which I'm not against all of that or whatever. But I am not the kind of person to flash that in front of people. I'm also not the kind of person, like, if I have the opportunity, if somebody was to say, I'm going to give you $10,000 to go buy something, Gucci's shoes, whatever, right? Or $10,000 to go feed, 300 people over at, some country, whatever, somewhere. Many countries right now need it. Like, I'm absolutely the person who's going to pick to feed the people who are hungry. That's who I am. That is who I am as a person. And I also feel like, like, that's just more important. Okay, to me, that is just what's more important in life. Like, don't sell your soul for the devil. Like, don't sell your soul for stuff like if you have whatever you have, you should share it. Like, it should be shared. And if a person can't see my value from who I am and who I am on the inside or whatever, then that's probably that's not my person, and that's not my kind of person. Because how did Jesus Christ come? He came birthed in a cow manger. Like, he came like in the lowest form of, without not all kinds of accolades and all kinds of fancy clothing and all that kind of stuff. He didn't have, the most richest family and all this, and that was on purpose. God did that on purpose so us humans could actually understand the important things in life. Like, what's actually important is how you make people feel, and it's assigning people the proper value in your life, right? And what means the most. And so when you learn to see people from all angles and actually see people for who they are and what they're good at or whatever, like, if somebody is really a liar or a cheater or whatever, then you say, okay, you can't be in my life because I don't want you to destroy me. I don't want you to bring me down. I don't want to have to heal from you. Or I'm not really in love with you. Maybe you are a good person, but I'm not really in love with you. And I don't want to lie to you about that. Like, I don't want to make you feel some type of way. I don't want to lie to you about a future relationship that we don't actually have because I really don't like you, or I'm not actually attracted to you, or there's no physical attraction. You're a good person, but I don't want to be with you in that way. It's called being honest. That's it. Called being honest. Okay? Anyway, let me go so I gotta take care, get some stuff done, okay? Bye.